again.
Can you talk to reply in your tab?
Yeah.
I've just realised that as well.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
You're right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Remember we're starting.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Zoom guests as well, and welcome to everybody who's here in real life as well. Thank you for braving the weather. Brisbane people do not like a little bit of rain, so it's lovely to see some faces here tonight. We are bound to get some more rain, but luckily it's calm now, so that will hold out through the event tonight. A couple of things before we start. If you've got your phone with you, switch it to silent, but we do encourage people to tweet, Instagram photographs. If you want to do a little TikTok in the middle of this, that's fine. If you're a Facebook person, you can tag us on Facebook. Any kind of social media is very welcome here. If you are here in the real life audience, the toilets are inside, so you can head in, and behind the counter there's some stairs. Welcome, join us. All right. There's stairs behind the counter. You can go up there, and that's where the toilets are. If you are at home watching from home, I'm sure you know where your toilets are. There, I will not tell you. So I think that's, for people at home, you're on silent for the duration, but if you do have any questions, you could type them into the chat function. And to show you where the chat function is, my trusty assistant, Oscar, is going to just send a link to the book tonight so you can purchase online, and you can also use that link to ask any questions at any time. So I'll start the proceedings. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional lands of Aboriginal people in this area, the Yagara and Turrbal people, and I'd like to pay my deepest respects to elders past, present and emerging, and any other elders who are with us tonight. And also, because we're zooming out onto all around the country, I'd like to also pay my respects to elders of the lands that you're zooming in from. This always was, always will be Aboriginal land, and sovereignty was never ceded. We're very, very happy to be continuing that long storytelling tradition that's been here in this area. And tonight we have with us the wonderful Allira Potter, who is an intuitive creator and writer, Reiki practitioner, motivational speaker, model and empowerment and mindset coach who hails from Geelong on Victoria's southern coast. Proud Yorta Yorta woman, is also a manifesting queen, using the power of the mind plus a dash of magic and a whole lot of hard work to create her dream six-figure business. With an avid Instagram following, seemingly endless collaborations with well-loved Aussie and international brands, and now her first book, Allira is passionate about being a leader within the community, hoping to inspire Indigenous youth to aim high and achieve amazing things. Everybody welcome Allira. And in conversation, we have Rachel Sarah, who is a multidisciplinary artist, designer and businesswoman, whose work is an extension of her being and experiences. As a contemporary mixed-race First Nations artist from Goreng country, Rachel uses art as a powerful tool and outlet to explore themes she often grapples with, while her work is often the resolution of such themes and conflicts within herself. Rachel's work often challenges and explores the themes of society's perception of what Aboriginal art and identity is. And a great example of it is her design for the puzzle, which is on the counter now. So I didn't actually realise that it was your puzzle, but congratulations, it's really beautiful. Beautiful puzzle. Diverse woman. Welcome, Rachel, and I will hand over to Rachel now.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone, and I also would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, the Yagara and Turrbal people, and also pay my respects to elders past, present and all around us, and also welcome all First Nations people here. I acknowledge I'm a guest here on this country, but also want to wish all of those who are taking a safe journey home. But we have the most wonderful Allira Potter, a good friend of mine, first time meeting IRL, but long-time fan. I guess first up, how are you?
I'm tired. I'm so tired, but like I'm so happy to be here and thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Well,
Yes.
we love having you. Oh, we need the microphone.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe use the
Yeah,
mic just
okay.
for the Zoom people so
My
they
bad.
can
yeah,
get you.
true.
Yes, so in Wild and Witchy, and this is actually a really special book because I remember this time in your life when you were transitioning in your career, in your life. You were in a different place 12 months ago at the time, corporate world, doing things that aren't this. And I guess, how was that journey?
It's been, that's really it's been a big one the past couple of, I want to say like it's nearly 2 years since I think it all sort of like took off. And yeah, I think 18 months ago I sort of quit my corporate 9-to-5 gig and thought, let's give this side hustle at the time a full-time crack, and I did, and now here we are with Wild and Witchy, which is like so crazy. Like I don't think it's hit me yet. I think we've done like how many bookstores this week? Over 20 in like 3 days, and I've gone into every single one and I'm like, oh yeah, it's there, but I don't think it's like really hit me yet. So yeah.
So can you tell me a bit more about that time in your life and what made you kind of take that leap to change what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say maybe like 3 years ago, I was really burnt out. I was, utilizing drugs and alcohol as a way to sort of, look after and cope with my mental health, which is a really crappy strategy to do. But I had my like spiritual awakening during that time and really lent into my oracle cards that I was gifted from my mum when she passed. And from that point on, my sort of spiritual journey began, and here we are now with this book. And I think, I worked a corporate job for 5 years and it was boring, and I just did it because I had to pay my bills. But I got to a point where I couldn't balance working this job for the man and doing all the things that I love doing. So I just took the plunge and thought, worst case scenario, I'll just get a job at Coles. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I love that you did that because it meant we became friends, which is beautiful. But also in your life as a busy creator, healer, spiritual practitioner, multiple other hats that you wear in life, what appealed to you about writing a book about your life?
I think people follow me on social media for a reason and a purpose. And I think that everyone can resonate with all my like lived experiences, from losing a mum, from going through marriage at a really young age and a divorce, and just, I'm really open and transparent on socials. And I just thought, well, let's put this into a book. Like, it just sort of made sense to share, the vulnerability of my existence, but share the rituals and the tools that sort of helped me with unpacking everything and getting to where I am today. So I keep saying that it's the Bible for the millennials, but I mean, it's a book for everyone.
Beautiful. And so in this book, I brought my own copy because I'm a stan. There are interactive parts in it. So talk to me about why you wanted to have that interactiveness.
Yeah, I think the interactive parts in the book, there's some in each chapter, I think were really important because there was things that people really struggle with, like journaling and saying these affirmations and having a self-care planner, and just everything that I do that's just like a given in my life. I just knew a lot of people sort of struggle with doing. So it was really important for me to have all of this in a book for people just to dip in and out whenever they needed to sort of come to this and ride and whatever it may be. But I said last night, I want people to essentially like trash the book. That's why we did it. I want pages ripped out. I want you to stick it on the mirror. I want your affirmations and your manifestations in here. Like, yeah.
It's definitely a lot better than me blowing up your DMs every time I have a question. So I guess writing a book is such a big task in life. It's definitely something different than what you have done. Who did you create the book for?
Well, I created the book for everybody. I had it in the back of my mind. Like, I just always envisioned that I'd want a book that young people can sort of go to, the book that I never had growing up, where if people are struggling with their mental health, or, if they want to do their self-love journey, or they want to learn more about their intuition and spirituality, everything's going to be in this little Bible. So I created the book intentionally at the time for women, but then I was like, hang on a second, I really want to be inclusive of men, even though I, hang shit on men all the time. But, I wanted to be super inclusive and ensure that the non-binary community as well too. It's a book for everyone. Everyone's going to resonate with something.
And so you dedicated the book to your mum, and firstly, I just want to say she would be so proud of you, not just for this book, but everything that you've done in your life. Can you tell us why you dedicated it to her and a bit about her?
Yeah, so I dedicated the book to my mum because she was a hardcore witch back in the day, and I was a naughty teenager and went against the grain and thought everything that she put out to the world was shit, not real. When she passed away, she gave me a deck of the oracle cards, which I used on my socials this morning. Actually, I use them all the time. I got the deck, I put them away because I was like, no, I'm never going to use this. It makes no sense. And then during that sort of spiritual awakening, I remember coming across the deck of oracle cards and just thinking, shit, Mum, you were right. You gave this to me for a reason and a purpose. You knew I was going to step into this space, and you knew that I was going to lean into everything that she was doing. And I sort of laughed because, she would go to this witch circle once a week. And I was like, this is so random that I go to a witch circle once a week now. Like,
very the craft vibe.
Yeah.
Well, you ticked 2 questions off there, so we'll skip across. But I guess touching on the oracle cards and also intuition, I guess when she did pass, could you feel her around you? And I guess how do you find your intuition firstly? And can you explain a little bit more about those downloads that you get?
Yeah, I mean, I can fully feel Mum around me all the time, whether that's like, it sounds crazy, but I suppose like you guys are all into spirituality, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But she's around me like, through numbers or songs on the radio or feathers on the ground. But the only way that I recognized that was me sort of stepping into my intuition and really unlocking that. Everyone has an intuition. We're all born with it. It's a matter of us really, digging deeper and doing things like getting grounded, whether that's like those ocean swims or, feeding the earth, whatever it may be, utilizing the oracle cards, because that's a way to open yourself up a little bit more. So I started doing all those things and my intuition just went crazy. Like I remember the downloads were happening, and they were happening in a way that I was like, why am I thinking that? I don't understand that. That's so bizarre. And I started just saying to friends and family, let me do card readings on you. Let me see if this works. And I was doing it and the downloads were coming through. It's like a thought popped into my head, but it was a message for this person. And then I remember what my social media was only like 3,000 people back in the day. And I put it on socials and I was like, readings for $10 if anyone wants to do it. And then the feedback that I was getting from people booking in, they were like, firstly, make your prices a little bit bigger. And secondly, you're really gifted, like do more of this. And so I did more, and yeah, it's crazy. Like I still have moments where I'll like message Ashlyn and be like, what the fuck what was that about? Like, and she's like, it's a download, babe, just go with it. And I'm like, okay.
That's actually really funny because I remember the first time that we actually interacted, you were taking over the Bloom app, Instagram Live, you were pulling cards and you saw me watching and you kind of pulled a card for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, hang on a second, that's too accurate. So we kind of got to yarning a bit more there too. But for those who, I guess, like you said, we would all probably be a bit witchy here, but for those who potentially aren't familiar with oracle cards, is there maybe like a oracle for babies or tip or something that you would recommend to us?
I mean, I started out with the oracle cards, obviously, but I think I say to people, start with the affirmations. I think that always sort of helps, or pull a card daily, that's you sort of tuning in and listening to whatever the universe has to say to you. There's no right or wrong either with the cards, because everyone freaks out with like, I need to get tarot cards, I need to get oracle cards. It's like the universe will gift you what you need. So just go with it and don't overthink it.
Clearly the universe doesn't think I need a man yet, but anyway.
We have the same word about this. We win all the time about being single.
Oh, alas. So in the book, you also write about the time when you brought Indigenous culture to, I guess, their wellness space. And that's something that I can definitely relate to, having that added factor and grounding ourselves in culture and our industry. Can you talk to me a bit more about that and why you felt it was important to bring that perspective?
Yeah, well, I think, firstly, the wellness space is pretty whitewashed, and I'm pretty, open about that on my social media. And I'm constantly saying we need to decolonize this space, but we need to look at the wellness space not just from this yoga and like going to the gym. The wellness space is the protein that we drink, it's the activewear that we're wearing. So I was looking at it like, firstly, we need representation of people of colour across the board. Secondly, why don't we have cultural safety across all the wellness practices that all the yoga teachers are doing? Or, I don't know, in buildings, why isn't there an acknowledgement of country as soon as I'm walking into my Pilates class? Just little things like that. So I knew me stepping into the wellness space, I was going to be pretty vocal in the way that I approached it. And I think I've been pretty good in the way that I've sort of, from a grassroots level, changed what I could and have done what I can. Like, for instance, my the gym that I go to, she was like, I need to do better. How do I do better? And I was like, I don't know, like get an acknowledgement of country. And I remember rocking out to the gym the following week and she's like, look what we got. This, like, I did this because I want to be inclusive. And I was like, oh, what a ripple effect. She put it on social media and next minute her husband had like decked out 3 of his businesses in Geelong with acknowledgement of country plaques, like just little things like that. So yeah, I think I'm being pretty vocal in that sense.
That doesn't sound like you. No, definitely a good thing. The next thing, which I found shocking when I met you, you were married at 22 years old. Holy. Like one man down, many more to go. And then you were divorced by 27. So I guess, do you regret anything about that relationship? What did you learn and what could be maybe a takeaway from it?
No, oh my gosh, I speak about my ex-husband so beautifully because he was a beautiful man and he still is a beautiful man. We got married really young because that's what you do when you're young and in love and you don't think of those things and you just want to soak up all that beautiful energy. And we did that. And then we just got to a point in our relationship where we just realized that, okay, it's not working and, there's probably no point in trying to fix it and that's A-okay. So I'm pretty open about that as well through all my socials because I want to normalize that it's okay to fail in a relationship. And if that person's not your person, then that's okay too. So I certainly don't live with any regret at all. Yeah, if anything, I just want a man now or a woman. Either way. Let's go.
Well, I did see you were on Tinder earlier, so we'll see how that goes. Judging from experience, it's not going to go well though. So this isn't now like online dating video, so we'll get on. So manifesting seems to definitely be fashionable and having a moment, and I feel like it's kind of a word that gets thrown around a little bit in circles and potentially people don't understand what that means or the power of it. So can you explain what manifesting is to those who may not be aware or are just using it as a cool word? And how has it influenced your life?
Manifesting is such a buzzword at the moment, like everyone is utilizing it and that's cool, that's so fine, but we need to follow the right people who understand those practices because it's a very powerful thing once you understand what it is and how to do it. Manifesting is utilizing the law of attraction. So what we put out to the universe, we essentially are going to be getting that back. So if we're putting out that positive energy, we're getting that positive energy back. If we're putting out negative energy, we're going to get a little bit of that negative energy back. I think I've really sort of stripped back what manifesting is and how to actually do it in the book. I teach 2 methods. And I think like with the clients that I've had, I've helped so many people manifest things like their houses, money, jobs. Like it's a really simple thing to do, but it's just a matter of really understanding how to do it. But it's in the book if you haven't bought it. Like,
so I guess good product placement.
yeah.
So I guess also on that, definitely buy the book, but as a bit of a taste to the audience, if you find yourself in a bit of a negative headspace, what are some of the things that you do to kind of shift that energy or that frequency?
Yeah, I mean, first thing is the mindset. So for instance, it's like it's been pissing down rain the past couple of days when we've been like Gold Coast, Brisbane. And I think this is the perfect example that I use with everybody. It's like, if it's raining outside, our mindsets almost go to that negative to be like, oh, it's raining, we can't do anything. And I say to my clients, switch your mindset to be like, okay, it's raining outside. I may not be able to do the things that I really want to do, but maybe I'll be able to do that later. So it's those little things by like tricking your mind to sort of think a little bit more positive, not in a toxic way, but just in a way that's going to be like, it's not the end of the world and it's okay. What was the rest of the question? I love this. I knew that you and I would be like just rambling. Oh, yeah, the mindset, like and getting into just like, yeah, it is. It's just the mindset and that like it's linked to manifestation.
Beautiful. I got distracted because I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to write all of these things down, which brings me to my next question. I know, and most of you would know if you follow Allira, that you are a big fan of journaling, and there is such a power to journaling your thoughts. So what are your favorite, I guess, or some of your favorite journaling kind of exercises that you use in your own life?
Yeah, and that's another part, like that's in the book with journaling. It's like there's little prompts in there because how many of us overthink like the power of journaling and we think that someone's going to read it or I don't know, it's just going to be like sent on the internet. But in reality, journaling is so simple as at the end of the day, just write 5 things that you're grateful for. And it could be as simple as just being like, I'm grateful that I came to this event tonight because, I don't know, I had a key takeaway of something, or it's the coffee that you had this morning. It's just like really simple things. But journaling, don't overthink it. It's just write whatever, you know, is in your head and whatever you're feeling. And I think for me, I utilize journaling as a way to sort of cope and deal with my mental health because I saw it as an energy release. So anything that I was like holding on to, I would write it down and I was like releasing that and I was letting that go.
And so when you write it down, do you burn it or anything, or do you just let it hang in your book?
Some I burn because I'm a Sag and I love fire. So I mean, you can burn things, especially if it's something negative that you're holding on to, 100% burn it. But I mean, I have stacks of journals at home. Like, God forbid anyone like breaks into my house and reads the journals, but you can do that. Or like, you know, little things even. Like I sometimes use my like iPhone notepad if I'm just like in bed. I'm like, oh, 5 things I'm grateful for, or just like putting down whatever I need to put down.
Well, I think we'll all look forward to the life of Allira Potter in a few years' time with those journals being published.
Thanks, Daily Mail.
She wrote what about it? But there, I'm sure I experienced this, so I'm sure you experienced this, that there are people that are probably skeptical about the witchy stuff, about the manifesting stuff. What do you kind of say to those people when you come across someone who's potentially a bit skeptical?
Yeah, I love this question. And I just think I respect people for whatever their beliefs are and wherever they're from. That's the way that my mum brought me up. She's like, you respect everybody and no matter if you disagree with them. So I say to people, okay, you may not believe about all the witchy stuff that I do, but you can respect me. So I think I always sort of tell the story of like the day that I quit my corporate job. Could you imagine the phone call I had with my grandma? I literally rang her and I was like, I resigned from my 9-to-5 corporate job that's paying really well to become a full-time witch. And she was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, I'm not kidding. Like, I want to utilize my craft and I want to tap into it a little bit more. And she's like, I don't get it, but I respect it. So I think once people understand that it's a part of the value and the belief of yours, that's when they're like, okay, I need to respect that boundary.
Yeah, beautiful. So I take it your grandma wasn't witchy then?
No, and she's still a skeptic. She has no idea what I do for a job. She saw me on the Today Show the other day and she was like, good on you, but like what for? What do you do? And I was like, man, I don't even know what I do either, but let's just roll with it.
It's like those people who aren't really into sports, when the Olympics come on, they're like, go to sport. Yeah. So you do describe yourself as a baby witch and you share some spells in Wild and Witchy. What drew you to start, I guess, dabbling in magic? And I guess what spells can we find in the book? What are we cooking up?
Yeah, I mean, I call myself a baby witch because I'm still learning how to like cast spells and tap into my craft a little bit more. I have like a really good mentor, Sarah from The Witch Apprentice. She's like an amazing witch to follow. Yeah. And she calls me baby witch too because I'm still learning, but I started utilizing magic and witchcraft as a way to help me manifest more. So they go sort of like 2 and 2 if you wanted to like mix them together. So I started utilizing things like wish candles, and then I started doing like crazy spells like freezing people. So that was great. And that's in the book. Your face. In the book. Yeah. You wouldn't be here if I did. But in the book there's like
What do you mean
little...
literally freezing people?
No, like not bodies. But there's like a spell in here that if you're wanting to sort of, you know, put a pause on, you know, that relationship with that person, then you write their name on a piece of paper, put it in a little plastic bag, fill it with water, you're freezing it. And you're sending good intentions to that person no matter what they've done to you, because karma is a bitch and we want to be kind to everybody. So that's in there. But yeah, I'm still learning the craft, but my advice is too around this is like, follow the right people. Don't just follow anyone, because there's so many dickheads out there at the moment on social media that are just like, I don't know, the Pinterest witches, I call them. Pinterest witches, yeah.
Yes. So asking for a friend, that bag of water, do you put it in the freezer or you just put it anywhere?
Put it in the freezer.
Okay. And I guess a personal question, I know that you use a lot of wish candles, a lot of oils and different herbs and stuff. Do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thanks, it's not on the list.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know. Well, it depends on my mood. Like I'm really like wanting love. So I'm using like lots of, you know, pink wish candles, red wish candles at the moment. But yeah, it depends.
Yes, beautiful. And so I guess this book is obviously amazing, but what's your main advice for those who are looking to explore spirituality and, you know, witchcraft?
I think like don't be afraid. You've obviously all come here to support like my book and me, and you're obviously wanting to like tap into your craft a little bit more. So don't be afraid to just like go with it and don't listen to what other people say, because this is something that's like a powerful thing for you as an individual. So I think just go with it, and like who cares what anybody thinks? Like if you want to be a witch like me, do it.
Awesome. And last question before we throw it to the audience. I just randomly opened up a page in the book, and quite fittingly, it's talking about boundaries. And I know that's something that you often talk to and encourage us to do online. Sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. Talk to me a bit more about how you set up your boundaries and how we can kind of listen to ourselves and follow ourselves.
Yeah, my boundaries are out the door this week, aren't they?
Sorry.
Sometimes our boundaries can't come into play, and sometimes they can, and that's okay. But I think for me, over the past couple of years, I have really strong boundaries around things I don't want to do and things I will do. And I'm not afraid to say no more than I'm saying yes to things, because I respect myself as an individual. And I don't want to burn out as often that I was, you know, a couple of years ago. So I think my advice for boundaries is say no more than you're saying yes. And the next time, this is like my favorite thing to do with my clients, is because we always say yes to our mates. But if a friend asks you out and they're like, let's go for coffee, and you don't really want to do it, just say no. That friend will understand if they're a really good friend.
I gotta go, sorry.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
And then the other thing too, like with a boundary, I always use this advice, but if it's a half-assed yes, it's an automatic no. So just say no.
That was on the page I pulled out, so you are witchy.
Yeah.
I lied. One more question actually before we throw it to the audience. The cover is absolutely beautiful. Your cousin did the artwork. Can you talk to us a little bit more about why it's so beautiful? What is it?
Shanae, my cousin from the Loga Art, did the artwork and the little details on the inside. But I sort of said to her, I was like, if I'm writing a book, you're coming along for the ride, because it just makes sense for you to do the artwork. And I said to her, I was like, just do something that's meaningful for us around like community and healing and love. And I just said the only thing that I want is I want the colour purple in it, because that's my mum's favourite colour. And she did the work, and I was like, don't change anything. That is perfect. So that's sort of the beautiful story behind it.
That's so beautiful, because purple actually, coming from my artistic background, is a very healing colour when we look at it from a psychology perspective. So that's beautiful. That being said, are there any questions in the audience? Or do we get the microphone?
No, we can repeat it if it's but yeah.
So I have three. Should I ask them at once or?
Individually, because I'm like,
She's had a big week.
So what is downloading?
so the downloading or the downloads that you receive are like messages from spirit or past loved ones. It could just be a message that's passed on to you, maybe like for you to take on board, but also a message that you may need to pass on to somebody else. Are you getting downloads? Like, are they happening for you at all?
How would
or-
we feel downloads?
Okay, I love this. So it's almost like I had those moments of why am I thinking that? Or it's like your intuition. You know, when we have those moments and it's like, oh, why did that happen? Like someone's like walked over my grave or something. It's almost like Spirit is here like trying to give you that message. So like tune into the frequencies that are around it.
Mhm.
But it's almost just like it drops in. It's just the most bizarre sort of feeling. But if you're experiencing it, it's like listen to your intuition, pause with it, and don't be afraid to be like, oh, maybe that is a message for me.
So could it be sounds or images?
Yeah,
scents, anything like that?
Sounds, images. I remember like when I first started seeing clients one-on-one, I was getting like smells, and I was like, this is really bizarre, and I had to sort of look into it a little bit more, but that's all a part of it, is like receiving these messages. So it's like, it can be pretty crazy.
Question number 2.
Wish candles. What is it?
Yeah, good question. So the wish candles are like really special sort of spell candles that you'll use. Each color is for a different sort of thing, whether that's, you know, intuition, love, money, abundance, whatever it may be. And you utilize the wish candles. I remember when you first got yours and I was like, how are you using them? I was like, you need to burn them all the way down. You have to let them like burn. It'll probably take an hour or so. But essentially you'll get your wish candle, you'll cleanse it, you'll set an intention, whether that's like I'm allowing money to come on in, I'm allowing love to flow on in, and then you're just going to burn the candle and just let it go all the way down to the ground. And then if you're really witchy, then you'll do things like plant it in the ground like I do. My neighbours think I'm fucking crazy. They see me out the front like, oh, she goes again, like planting her candles. But it's like you're wanting to bring that thing into the home, so you plant it at the front of the house.
Mm.
If you're wanting to release anything, you'll plant it at the back of the house because you're letting it go.
And the key takeaway is the whole way down, because I'll maintain that's why I don't have a man yet. I'm going to halfway.
I remember I was like, how are you using it? And she's like, I just burnt it. I was like, all the way down. And she sent me a photo and I was like, no, get a new candle.
I got scared like I was going to burn the house down or something. That was question number 2, wasn't it? So third question.
You said there are like witches not to follow, but there's some that you like really resonate with. Is that anywhere on the social media or the book or
Yeah.
anything?
In the book, in like spiritual section, I have a list of spiritual people to follow. But Sarah, the witch apprentice, is my best mate. She is probably the most, I don't know, she's incredible.
She's very cool.
Yeah, she knew I was coming on the book tour and she made me like this little protection kit to take around with me. And I was like, I didn't ask for that. She's like, I know, but I know you need it. So she's very, very powerful.
And that's where you can get your candles from as
Yes.
well, and little oils and things like
Yeah,
that.
the oils, oh my gosh, the oils that she does, they work and they're intense as.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I recommend following her.
Any other questions?
How do you go with like obviously First Nations women and we're very spiritual, you know, so how does that intertwine? Like, because when I told my dad, actually, I was coming here, so what you talking about? Witches, black witches, what are they doing? And you know, like, and I was like, knock it off, like, you know, and like, and he's like, what are they doing? So I mean, being an older, you know, like, so how do you go with?
Yeah.
I know that when we say
Oh,
that
yeah.
too, people wouldn't, you know, because I'm quite spiritual,
Mhm.
so they knock it off with that.
You gotta be
Yeah.
careful who you invite in too.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah, oh, I've
so
had
how
others
does that
before. Yeah, I've had others be like, oh, no, don't do that. But it's like, I sort of have to separate the two.
Yeah.
I see my spirituality and my spiritual being is something that's a connection to culture and the way that I'm like looking after my well-being and connecting with my ancestors. whereas my witchy stuff is like completely separate, and I won't even sort of intertwine the two.
Yeah.
Unless, having said that, if you see me in it like and have a session with me, I'm going to utilize things like my clap sticks, or I'm like channeling any messages I need to receive. If it's a First Nation person seeing me, I always call in my ancestors. But yeah, otherwise, I'm separating the two. So I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you doing more readings? 'Cause I remember you
Yeah.
were one of the first people when we first started a year ago, and it's gone from then. I was remember,
Yeah.
you know, like we just stopped, and I
I
was
know. Do you know how many emails I have
like,
sitting
hey, I can
there?
imagine.
It's like 150 plus sitting there of people being like, can I book in? And I'm like, shit, not yet.
Yeah.
So soon. But for you, anytime.
We'll hope that they're more than $10 now for those 100.
Yeah.
I know.
It'll work.
More, yes.
You sort of said about the discernment about like, following different people because there's sort of, some might have more to offer or some might be strong, there's the portions because, there's different kind of witches in the thing. There's people that talk about like green witches and yellow witches and black witches, and some say, black witches, they worked a spell on my dog, and the dog died. Like, something really dangerous, is it somewhere there are some, or is it, are there really, is everything safe? Or are there some really dangerous, are there things out there that need some words of caution? Are there things that, is it true that someone can actually do a spell and then the dog kills over and dies? Or is that just
If the witch is really powerful, they can do anything. I mean, I could do probably anything, but I wouldn't because I'm a kind witch. And I believe that everyone has a place on this earth. I do think that there's lots of people on social media that are playing with fire in the way that they're sort of portraying witchcraft, and they're the Pinterest witches. And they're the ones that are just gathering any information they need to gather to look cool on socials when in reality they haven't done their research.
But the whole thing that history of Salem witch trials, it wasn't really any, it was all paranoia, when it all boiled down, it was gossip, innuendo, and there wasn't actually any witchcraft actually happening. It was just people making allegations, and it just got hysteria, and they ended up burning them. Hang them, they end up hanging them. So
yeah, I feel like there's probably witches like that out there, but I'm a good witch. Sometimes.
Any more questions?
How would you say to approach a book? Because I feel like there's so much beautiful knowledge in there, and I'm really happy to, see you first, and I'm really excited to actually physically here. So I bought some footwork for a wellbeing conference I've got next month, and really excited to, look in the book. But I'm just thinking every book, has a start and end point, but I feel like your book isn't read chapter 1, read chapter 2, and go on that. So how do you, especially because it's a bit witchy in that sense, say to people when they pick up the book, how do you approach it? How do you start?
Yeah, well, when we created the book, I made it a really firm decision to be I don't want it to be a book where you read from start to finish. I want it to be a book where people can lean into it when they need to lean into it. Whether they're having bad days or good days, or they're wanting to learn about intuition, then you just go to the chapter. There's no right or wrong. See, it's people overthink, and it's just go with it. The book's going to be there, and if you want to start off on chapter 10, go to chapter 10. That's so fine.
I like the idea how you got it that you can pull things out and stuff like that. I've seen that done before in another book, and I think that's the idea. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and obviously sharing it with some colleagues from work.
Yeah, and I think it's important. It's kind of cool because it's I wanted it to be an interactive book because I'm the sort of person I can read a book, but also I get bored really easily. And having these little things in there is oh, that's nice. It's a break from reading to be able to write things in.
Any more questions after that?
There's been times where I've tried to tune in and talk to my ancestors and stuff like that. How do you tell the difference between it actually being spirits and ancestors or it's just you trying to say something in your head? Do they actually speak to you, or is it a no? I tried and I was I've heard Yeah, I couldn't discern whether it was just my brain trying to do weird shit or if it was like actual my ancestors actually talking to me. So
Yeah.
any guidance on that?
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Next time it happens, just pause and just sort of feel into whatever you're like really feeling into. I think that's the thing that I had to do. I had to be like, is this my brain? Is this my ego? Is this like my intuition? And once I sort of like paused and listened into that, I realized that there were messages coming on through. Not necessarily from a particular voice, but my own voice. And how sometimes people have that inner monologue, that's me.
Yeah.
And like things were coming through and I was like, why is my voice saying that? Like, why is that happening in my brain? So if that's happening, go with it. Write down the things that are like coming on in as well too. I think that's really important. But trust your intuition. Sometimes your ego will get in the way to be like, no, bitch, that's not right. When in reality, it's like the ego is there to sort of protect us sometimes. But just like pause and listen and feel into that intuition because it's probably a message that needs to be passed on.
Any more questions in the room or are there any in the chat?
Well, I've got one. I loved what you said about decolonising the wellness industry, because I think that you walk into any of those places and you don't feel like you belong unless you're a particular look of person.
A size 6.
Yeah, exactly. It's not size inclusive. It's not gender inclusive at all. And I wonder if what you're doing by being on other shows or doing media, is that your activism to try and change that world? And is there stuff that other people can do that don't have that platform? Is there something that we can do when we walk into those places and go, this yoga class is not for me because I'm not that pretty white blonde woman on the wall?
Well, I think like that's society speaking as well too. It's like be the change, walk into that studio and just like own it and just be like, who cares? It's my body, and like if my body's able to like move on a yoga mat, then let it do it. But you're right in saying the way that I was decolonizing the wellness space is my advocacy through the collaborations that I was doing on social media. So prime example, I've spoken about this on podcasts before, but I think 2 years ago, Lululemon reached out to me. And I remember the conversation because the man emailed me. He emailed me and he was like, I want to have a conversation about bringing you on board for a campaign. And I just wrote back, let's have a Zoom instead. Let's talk about this. Had a Zoom. And I said, to be quite frank, I'm a size 18. I've never walked into your store before. You only show bodies that are like size 6 and size 8. That's nothing wrong in me, like, taking, annoyance at these women. But I was like, you only show white women as well too. I've never seen diversity, like, ever. I was like, I just said all these things and I remember him sitting there being like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, great. I was like, come back to me when you make change. And I think if you've like followed me for a while, I only recently did a campaign with Lululemon like towards the end of last year. It took like a solid 2 years until I saw change. So it's brands where like, and you would know too, like as a conscious content creator, because that's what we are. I understand people say influencers, that's fine. But we're conscious content creators in a way where I won't pick up a job and just do it for the money. I'm actually working behind the scenes with the brand to be like, firstly, tell me about like your policies around like diversity and inclusion. I want to know these things. And are you going to do better? Are you using me as a token? I want to know all these things. So once I sort of just started disrupting that industry, people could see it and see that there needed to be change. So I think from like a grassroots level, take ownership, don't hide away, just show up. Because that like makes people uncomfortable as well too.
Well said. Any other questions or in the chat at all?
I don't think anyone's asked questions online, but if anyone does have any questions online, now is your chance. No, they have not asked any questions.
Cool. Wait, one in the back there?
Hi, Allira.
Hello.
I just have a question a bit more around your daily practice of manifestation. What does it look like to you in your day-to-day steps?
Yeah. So I mean like daily manifestation, it's the simple things like I was talking about Sarah from the Witchy. I use her oils every single morning because I'm manifesting constant abundance, and not in like a way where I want to be greedy around money. I just want to make sure that I've got money flowing into my bank account. I do things like affirmations around manifesting positive self-love towards myself. So I'm getting up and I'm saying like in the shower, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, and I'm fucking powerful. And that's like manifesting self-love. So I mean, my daily practices, it also depends on my mood as well too, but I'm doing things actively all the time. Like we went to the shopping center and I was like, we're manifesting a car spot. Like it's just, yeah, just like those little things. But yeah, I think the practice is always there, but it's definitely evolving and changing every day.
Well, yeah.
What sort of, are there places you can go that would give you, if you go to a yoga studio, you can walk in off the street, or if you want Pilates studio, you can walk off the street. Is there where would you kind of meet other people in a circle? How do you get referred personally, or how do you sort of?
For like meeting, I guess, like like-minded individuals, is that what you mean?
Like in the witches circle, because yoga, they've got a sign up when you walk down the street or blah, but like in the witches, is there?
That's a good question. I think it's probably like different for everyone, but I think I called my people in. I just remember being like, I'm open to receiving the right individuals on a like witchy spiritual level, and then they dropped in, and now I'm part of like a little witchy coven.
It's not something you can just stumble across.
I mean, there probably is, but I think for me, it's like, why go look for it? The universe will place the right people in front of you.
There is a couple of questions here. One of them is from Tabitha Bird, who's asking, I'm learning to love myself more fully. What is the most powerful thing you have learned around that idea of self-love?
Yeah, I think
That's a tough question.
Yeah, self-love. Well, affirmations is a start to like bring into your space and your world to love yourself that little bit more. But I think that I've learned is I have come to a point in my 30s where I give zero fucks about what people think about me. I don't care. I really don't care. I remember in my 20s, I was so self-conscious and so just like, I'm worried about like this person's not going to like the way that I'm like dressing or acting or whatever it may be. And I was dressing for the male gaze. I wasn't dressing for myself. And I just got to a point where I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to just show up as me. And if people don't like it, see you later.
Sounds really good.
Was there another one?
No, it was the same one. Sorry.
And one closing question. What was your favorite thing about writing the book, or the whole process?
I think the whole process, it was like a reflection and healing period for me. I mean, the healing never stopped, and there was triggers writing the book talking about, the death of my mum and things like that. But I think the whole process was just such a reflection of, shit, mate, you're only 31 and like, look at what you've done. It's pretty unreal. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I have had the absolute pleasure sitting here with you. And as a friend, I'm very proud of what you've done and been able to achieve. But just want to say thank you for sharing all of that with us. And, we're going to see the sales of witches candles going up now, I think. So you'll manifest something. But thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say to close?
No, I'll just thank you so much for coming. I just appreciate it so much.
Doing such a great job, so thank you, Rachel. So we are going to do the signing out here. So we're going to rearrange this so it's a signing table. The book, if you haven't bought it already, is for sale at the counter inside. And if you know someone that that needs this in your life, this is your chance to get a gift for someone. Very rare that we have our interstate people to get books signed, so we're very excited.
You don't have to move anything. I'm really chill. I can just.
I'll give you a small chair. You can get rid of that big one.
Oh, that's fine.
It is always just